This is Valley News Live at 5.
Good afternoon, everyone. An investigation has been completed into the officer-involved shooting back in August. The Attorney General's office has found the 4 officers who shot and killed a Mapleton man were justified and cleared of any criminal charges. That shooting happened at a home in Mapleton on August 1st after an hours-long standoff. In body cam footage released today, you can see 35-year-old Andrew Martinez coming out of his home with an AR-15 rifle and pointing it at officers from Fargo. The 4 fired their weapons, killing Martinez.
I feel that everyone on the scene did the best that they could to try to resolve this situation without anyone getting hurt. We tried to do what we could to bring this to a peaceful conclusion.
Fargo police say it's still conducting its internal review of the incident and don't have a set date when all 4 officers will be back on the streets. We'll have more on this story tonight on Valley News Live at 6. Meanwhile, the family of the man killed says they wish more would have been done to protect Andrew. In a statement, they said, "We recognize and appreciate the effort made to peacefully resolve the terrible situation that day. But knowing that Andrew was in crisis and not in his right mind, we wish that more could have been done to prevent this tragic outcome." The world said goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II today. Her state funeral in London marking the culmination of 10 days of national mourning in the UK. Reporter Bree Jackson is in London following this historic ceremonies surrounding the Queen's death.
An extravagant and somber ceremony. Queen Elizabeth II's coffin taken to Westminster Abbey on a gun carriage with royal family members following close behind. The late Queen was consulted on the state funeral, steeped in tradition full of prayer and pageantry.
We remember her unswerving commitment to a high calling over so many years.
Britain's longest-serving monarch spent 70 years on the throne, the Archbishop of Canterbury recalling a promise she made on her 21st birthday to dedicate her life to service.
Rarely has such a promise been so well kept.
Mourners pouring in from across the globe. President Biden and the First Lady were among the hundreds of state leaders and dignitaries paying their respects.
Let us pray for all those whose hearts are heavy with grief.
Atop her flag-draped coffin, a personal, handwritten note from King Charles reading, "In loving and devoted memory." Crowds gathered in a nearby park to honor the only queen most have ever known.
It's a fitting end, a tribute to a fantastic life of service.
Thousands lined the streets as Her Majesty's coffin journeyed through the heart of London to her final resting place at Windsor Castle.
That was the lump in the throat moment,
I think,
when the coffin came by and so slowly, and the family behind.
We won't see her anymore, but this was the last thing, the last time.
A moment in history that will not be forgotten, marking the end of an era, a remarkable reign, and a life well lived. In London, Bree Jackson for NBC News.
Queen Elizabeth is buried next to her husband, Prince Philip. Members of the royal family will now spend an extra 7 days in private mourning. It was sure nice to see rain this morning in my neighborhood. Let's get the latest on what areas got wet. Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson joins us with details. Hutch?
Right, we started the day off with a huge blob of shower and thunderstorm activity. A few of those were severe. Now we have clear skies showing here on our Luther Family Ford view. You're looking out to the west. Most of the showers are now exiting through northern Minnesota, the Lake of the Woods area, and not far from you folks in the War Road area where you see the green on the screen there, to Badette. That's where we still have some remnant showers taking place. The rest of us are high and dry. Here's what it looked like this morning, moving through Jamestown, Stutsman County and rolling into the central Red River Valley. Cluster of thunderstorms made their way through. A few of these produced some sizable hail. Here were some of the hail reports, many of those on the North Dakota side of the river, like this report here. There's the old Bic lighter, and well, out by Streeter, they had, well, some pretty good-sized hail out there. 1 to 2 inches of estimated rainfall. Anywhere you see the greens and the yellows, a few tenths elsewhere. And here's some reports that we did get in. 6,700ths in Pekin, Fargo and West Fargo, about 1/4 of an inch here and there. Across the valley, a little bit less in Moorhead, 32/100ths for Jamestown. Tonight, expect quiet conditions, but a cold front is going to be making its way through as we head through the overnight hours, and there could be more thunder tomorrow. I'll have hour-by-hour details on where and time it all out for you here in just a moment. Mike.
And you can add 4/10 of an inch from Deer Creek's neighborhood, okay?
Ooh, that's a good little bit of amount.
It was, thanks. Fargo police are asking for your help in locating a missing teenager. 16-year-old Tiana Valleca was last seen around late yesterday in the 1800 block of 39th Street South in Fargo. You're asked to contact Red River Dispatch with any information. A Grand Forks educator has been named North Dakota's 2023 Teacher of the Year. Ivana Todorovic is an English teacher at Red River High School. She was selected among other finalists in the Capitol's Memorial Hall today. Todorovic is a native of Bosnia and Herzegovina. She and her husband arrived in the States in 1995. She teaches students who are not fluent in English. Todorovic has worked with the Grand Forks School District for 27 years, including 17 as an English teacher. Congratulations. Governor Tim Walz says Minnesota will be joining 6 other states in the launch of the Midwest Hydrogen Coalition. Now that includes the states of Wisconsin, Illinois, Kentucky, Michigan, and Ohio. They'll all be working together to speed up the development of clean hydrogen. This includes manufacturing, production, and distribution. The coalition also hopes to create more well-paying jobs in the industry and lower long-term costs for consumers and businesses. The U.S. Department of Energy has given $8 billion in federal funding to put toward coalitions like this. The midterm elections are just 7 weeks away, and there are very different issues topping the minds of voters. Republicans lead on the economy and immigration, while Democrats are ahead on abortion and defending democracy. And in a wide-ranging interview, President Biden declared the pandemic over and would not firmly commit to run for re-election. Reporter Alice Barr has the very latest from Washington.
In a stark demonstration of this nation's divisions, the top issues for voters ahead of the midterm elections reflect 2 separate campaigns. A new NBC News poll shows Republicans clearly leading on the economy, immigration, and crime, while Democrats have the advantage on abortion, threats to democracy, and climate change. As we wait to see which set of issues drives more voters to the polls, President Biden making waves on another key concern, declaring on CBS's 60 Minutes the pandemic is over.
We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over.
Despite marked improvements, public health officials are divided over where the pandemic is headed this fall and winter. President Biden's approval ratings heading up to 45%, according to that NBC News poll. It's the highest mark in 11 months. The president not yet committing to run again in 2024.
Is it a firm decision that I run again? That remains to be seen.
Republicans, meanwhile, hammering President Biden's immigration policies as border cities in Texas have seen an influx of migrants since last week. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis getting a standing ovation in Kansas over the weekend after he sent 2 planes full of migrants to Martha's Vineyard.
They were given basically a lottery ticket to get to the wealthiest sanctuary jurisdiction in the country.
President Biden accusing the governor of playing politics with human beings as the political path to the midterms starts heating up. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
The president also said that United States forces would defend Taiwan if China invaded. China quickly calling that a violation of a U.S. commitment not to support Taiwan's independence. The White House clarified that the U.S. policy toward Taiwan has not changed. Something special happened this morning at the warehouse for the Furniture Mission of the Red River Valley. A celebration marking more than 1,000 households being served. The mission provides gently used furniture from donations and gives it to those in crisis or transition, the generosity of which, they say, blows them away.
We always are so grateful to live and serve in such a generous community. Whether it's furniture donations, whether it's monetary donations, whether it's volunteer time, people have shown up for what we do, see the value in it, see the need, and just are ready to serve. So it means the world to us.
The Furniture Mission says that they've distributed over 11,000 pieces of donated furniture since 2020. Stick around later on Valley News Live at 5. Details on Hurricane Fiona as it slammed Puerto Rico with heavy rainfall.
And we had some rainfall make its way through the valley. That impacted temperatures in our northern counties most as the clouds and the rain are still exiting that area. Here's a look from our tower cam at the showers making their way through Fargo earlier today. Your forecast includes a few thunder showers and, well, we'll look ahead toward the weekend as well right after this.